The courtroom fell into an eerie silence the moment the gavel slammed down. Judge Marlowe's voice trembled slightly as he said, "The prosecution's key exhibit has gone missing." Gasps erupted. The gallery stared in disbelief as defense attorney Alara Cross turned to face the bench, her jaw clenched. She whispered, "They buried it." Across the room, D.A. Riker's face was unreadable. A single bead of sweat rolled down his temple. In the back row, a young man in a gray hoodie ducked his head. The judge continued, "Until the chain of custody is verified, this case is suspended." Alara's heart pounded. This was the evidence that could exonerate her client, and now it had vanished. Somewhere between the precinct and the courtroom, truth had disappeared, and someone wanted it to stay lost. Cameras flashed. Reporters stirred. The world had just witnessed the collapse of a case, live. But for Alara, it wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of war. Alara exited the courtroom into the blinding morning sun, her heels clicking against the stone steps like war drums. Reporters swarmed, questions flying like bullets. Was the evidence destroyed? Did Riker sabotage the chain? Alara didn't answer. She spotted her junior Malik, lean early 30s, quick-witted, holding a file that wasn't supposed to exist. "They sent this anonymously," he said. She took it, fingers trembling. The top sheet read, "Custody log alteration, March 17." Her breath caught. That was the day the key video file was logged out and never returned. Alara looked up toward the courthouse. Someone in that building was hiding the truth, and they were willing to risk a man's life to bury it. Her voice was steady when she finally spoke. "We dig until they break." Inside her cramped office, Alara scanned the document while Malik watched silently. "They altered the log manually," she whispered, her finger tracing the smudged entry. Malik said, "There's no security footage. The camera feed's been wiped." She stood abruptly. "Then we find someone who remembers." On the wall behind them, a board filled with case notes, photos, and red string seemed to vibrate with tension. Malik said, "There's one guy, low-level tech, name's Theo Wren. He worked records that night." Alara's eyes narrowed. "Let's hope he hasn't vanished too." She grabbed her coat, her voice low. "This isn't about saving one man anymore. It's about exposing every rotten piece of this system." They found Theo Wren hiding behind a shipping crate in the old municipal archives basement, hands shaking. "I didn't erase it," he said, voice trembling. "But I saw who did." Alara knelt beside him. "Who?" He hesitated, eyes darting. "I talk, I die." Malik stepped forward, quietly offering a burner phone. "You tell us, we protect you." Theo took it, breathing ragged. "Judge Marlowe's clerk. He took the log file, said it was court order, but he never checked it back in." Alara's eyes darkened. "Then he's our next stop." Theo grabbed her sleeve. "You didn't hear it from me." Alara nodded. "You were never here." Later that night, Alara stood outside Clerk Raymond's suburban home, eyes scanning the quiet street. "No cameras, no watchers," Malik said from the car. "Perfect." She knocked. The door opened slowly. Raymond's face drained of color. "Miss Cross," he stammered. "Why are you here?" Alara stepped forward. "To ask why you removed critical evidence and buried the file." He opened his mouth, then shut it. She added, "Or maybe to ask who told you to." The silence was louder than any confession. Inside, the lights flickered. Alara leaned in. "Start talking, or I drag this out into the open." Clerk Raymond sat hunched at his kitchen table, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling over a cup of untouched coffee. Alara sat across from him, voice steady. "We know you took the file. What we don't know is why." Raymond didn't look up. "They told me it was a national security matter, that if I didn't remove it, people would die." Malik, standing nearby, scoffed. "And you believed that?" Raymond's eyes flashed. "They had pictures of my son." Silence dropped like a curtain. Alara leaned in. "Who gave the order?" He whispered, "I never saw their face, just a voice, modulated. They called themselves Sable. Alara's heart clenched. That name hadn't been uttered in years. A ghost from a buried case. She stood. Then we're not just chasing corruption. We're chasing a cover-up. Back at their office, Malik dug through cold case files as Ilara pinned Raymond's confession to the wall. Sable, we had that name in the Ryerson case, she said. Malik nodded, pulling a box marked classified. Closed 2016. Ryerson's suicide was never clean. Evidence vanished there too. As they worked, the wall became a tapestry of crossed wires, names, photos, symbols. A new line connected Raymond, Ryerson, and an FBI memo with one word circled in red, Sable. They've been scrubbing cases for years, Malik muttered. Ilara said, we don't just need evidence, we need a leak. Someone inside whole talk. Malik looked up, face hard. I know someone, but he's dirty and dangerous. Ilara didn't flinch. Then let's get our hands dirty. The nightclub pulsed with bass as Ilara stepped into the neon haze. Bodies swayed under violet lights, but she moved with purpose. In a back corner booth sat Vince Moreno. Ex-agent, disgraced, dangerous. Slicked hair, crooked grin, drink in hand. Malik flanked her. You always show up when the heat's rising, Vince said. Ilara slid into the booth. We need information. Vince laughed. What makes you think I have any left? She dropped a word. Sable. The smile vanished. You're digging where you shouldn't. Malik leaned in. You owe us. Vince's eyes darted. They used couriers, black vans, one pickup spot left. He scribbled an address on a napkin. You didn't get it from me. Ilara pocketed it. You never existed. Midnight cloaked the industrial district as Ilara and Malik crouched behind a rusted fence near the warehouse address. A black van idled near the dock, two figures unloading sealed crates. We need to see what's inside, Ilara whispered. Malik zoomed his phone camera. No markings, no ID. One of the figures turned, a woman in tactical gear, face obscured by shadows. The van's driver wore gloves and a comms earpiece. They're military or something close, Malik muttered. A sudden bark of a dog nearby sent both ducking. Flashlight beams swept the alley. Move now or we lose them, Ilara hissed. They sprinted to the side exit, silent. She knew what was at stake. If this was a drop, the trail could go cold fast. They had one chance. Inside the warehouse, the air reeked of dust and oil. Ilara crept toward a stack of crates, hand on flashlight, heart pounding. Malik followed, recording everything. One crate had been left slightly ajar. She peeled it open. Inside, rows of sealed evidence bags, flash drives, shredded documents, photos. This is it, she whispered. Malik snapped photos fast. Then came a distant voice. Hey! A flashlight beam shot their way. They bolted. Ilara clutched a bag, labeled Ryerson, Media File 4A. As they escaped through a side door, gunshots rang out, ripping into metal siding behind them. They dove into their car, tires screeching into the night. We have it, Ilara said, breathless. Now let's see what they tried to erase. The flash drive trembled in Ilara's hands as she slid it into her laptop. I'll be to do war. Malik hovered beside her, anticipation tight in the air. The screen flickered to life. Grainy security footage from inside the courthouse evidence room. Timestamp, March 17, 2:12 a.m., Malik noted. On screen, a man in gloves and a black hoodie approached the evidence cabinet. He used a key card. No sign-in. No camera notice. This wasn't protocol, Ilara muttered. The man retrieved a specific folder, then turned, the side of his face briefly caught by a flicker of light. Ilara hit pause. Her heart skipped. Is that Judge Marlowe's driver? Malik zoomed. The image was blurred, but the profile was unmistakable. This wasn't just a cover-up, Ilara said. This was orchestrated from the inside. The next morning, Ilara and Malik drove to a gated mansion nestled on the city's outskirts, the residence of Judge Marlowe's longtime driver, Dennis Crane. "If he's involved, he's our thread," Malik said. Ilara replied, "And threads unravel." They parked a block away and approached on foot. The house was quiet, curtains drawn. Ilara knocked once, twice. No answer. Then a rustle from the side yard. They circled around and froze. The back door hung ajar. Inside, furniture was overturned, drawers open, signs of a hasty search. Malik whispered, "Someone beat us here." In the hallway, a smear of blood led to the rear exit. Ilara's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're cleaning house." She pulled out her phone. "Call it in, but not to the cops." Inside the house, forensics expert Sienna Cho arrived, early 40s, meticulous, sharp-eyed. She examined the blood trail while Ilara watched anxiously. "The smear pattern says he was dragged," Sienna murmured. "Whoever took him didn't expect to leave a mess." Malik handed her a photo. "We think the driver took evidence from the courthouse." Sienna nodded. "Then this wasn't a robbery. This was containment." In the study, she uncovered a hidden drawer with a burned USB port and singed paper fragments. "Looks like someone torched the backups," she said grimly. Ilara clenched her jaw. "They're silencing witnesses and erasing records." She looked to Malik. "We're going to need someone higher up. Someone who's already turned against the system." They met her in a quiet cemetery. Lydia Holt, ex-prosecutor, mid-50s, silver-streaked hair, trench coat wrapped tight against the wind. She stood before an unmarked grave. "He tried to expose them," she said, her voice rough. "My brother, the whistleblower from Ryerson. They made it look like suicide." Ilara stepped closer. "We believe they're still operating. Under Sable." Lydia didn't blink. "Sable is more than a name. It's a network. Judges, agents, politicians. Anyone inconvenient disappears." Malik asked, "Why help us?" Lydia placed a file on the stone. "Because I'm done being afraid." Inside were transcripts, sealed depositions, and the name of someone still active. Assistant Director Helen Voss. Ilara took it silently. They finally had a direct line to power. In the safety of a secluded motel room, Ilara and Malik studied Lydia's file. Voss's name appeared again and again in internal memos, always in proximity to missing evidence, sudden retirements, and sealed trials. "She's the connective tissue," Ilara said. Malik nodded. "But getting to her?" He gestured to a list of known security personnel. "She's untouchable." Ilara leaned back, eyes burning with resolve. "Not if we pull her into daylight." She pointed to a leaked calendar entry. Voss would appear at a closed-door panel next week. "We don't break in, we make her break cover." Malik grinned. "Crash the conference?" Ilara smirked. "We make it the story no one can ignore." Outside, thunder rolled. The storm was far from over. The convention center loomed ahead, sleek glass, heavy security, and layers of protocol. Inside, the government oversight panel buzzed with hushed voices as aides handed out sealed folders. Helen Voss, mid-50s, severe in a navy suit, entered the chamber with military precision. Ilara, disguised as press under a fake credential, lingered near the stage. Malik, tucked in the tech booth, whispered through her earpiece, 5 minutes until the panel starts." Ilara scanned the crowd. Her eyes locked onto Voss, poised, unreadable, dangerous. Then she saw it, a courier dropping a folder into Voss's briefcase. Ilara's pulse spiked. "Malik, screenshot that ID tag, trace the courier." Malik responded, "Already on it." The game had changed. This wasn't about evidence anymore. It was about exposing a machine. Malik traced the courier to a federal logistics firm, a place with no sign and no website. By nightfall, they parked near its concrete structure under sodium lights. "Surveillance only," Ilara whispered. From across the street, She zoomed in through her lens. Inside, crates were being loaded, not just documents but hard drives and sealed envelopes. Malik whispered, "These aren't routine transfers. These are deep cleanings." Then a door opened. A man stepped out, the same courier. Alara gasped. He was on the Ryerson case. He testified, and then vanished. Malik recorded, "We've got facial match and time code." Alara leaned back in the seat. "He is not a courier. He's the cleaner." And if he was working again, it meant the machine was still running and accelerating. Alara and Malik visited a retired federal agent, Clarice Hahn, late 60s, brittle voice but sharper than ever. Her cabin was hidden in the woods, off-grid. "You're digging into Sable?" she asked, eyes narrowing. Alara nodded. "We think Voss is the key node." Clarice shook her head. "Voss isn't the node. She's the firewall." She pulled an old manila envelope from her stove, her safest hiding place. Inside were transcripts, voice records, internal memos, all centered around a program titled Echo Verdict. "They rewrite legal outcomes before trial," Clarice explained. "Sable's a misdirection. Echo Verdict's the core." Alara's breath caught. "They don't just bury evidence, they fabricate justice." Malik whispered, "This isn't just a conspiracy. It's doctrine, Tall." Back in the city, Malik decrypted a file from Clarice's envelope. It was a voice log, time-stamped years ago. A digitally modulated voice said, "Subject Ryerson authorized for outcome reversal, Echo Verdict Protocol 4A." Alara slammed her fist into the table. They used it on him. He was convicted before evidence even reached trial. Malik's fingers flew over keys. "There's a live server link here. They're still using this." He traced the IP. "Encrypted through JusticeNet, but this segment is routed through Marlowe's chambers." Alara's eyes darkened. "He's not a pawn. He's a partner." She picked up her coat. "We hit the court after hours. If he's hiding access, we find it." Malik glanced at her. "This is the point of no return." Alara said, "It was the second they erased Ryerson." Inside the darkened courthouse, the silence was oppressive. Malik disabled the alarm system, while Alara guided him through back corridors. In Judge Marlowe's chambers, everything was pristine, too pristine. Malik opened the desktop case and blinked. "No hard drive. It's running virtual." Alara found a panel behind the bookshelf. And it clicked. Inside, a secure uplink device flashing red. "This is the connection," she said. "This is how they push verdicts." Malik inserted a capture device. "We have 5 minutes max before it pings security." Data streamed across the screen. Case IDs, altered sentences, restructured legal briefs. "They're rewriting history in real time," Malik said. Alara whispered, "Not anymore." As they backed out, sirens wailed in the distance. Alara's voice was steel. "Time to let the world know." The leaked data exploded across media outlets by dawn. Alara stood in the newsroom as the footage of the hidden server played on screens above her. Echo Verdict. Secret network altered dozens of federal trials. The headlines read. Reporters scrambled. Phones rang. Anchors rehearsed lines. Malik leaned over to her. "They're calling it the trial of the system." But the celebration was cut short. A federal gag order arrived within the hour. Judge Marlowe issued it himself. Alara stared at the document. "He's doubling down." Outside, protesters had begun to gather, signs raised, voices loud. Malik muttered, "We kicked the hornet's nest." Alara replied, "Then we burn it down." In court. The narrative had shifted. Now they weren't just fighting for one man. They were fighting for the truth itself. Federal court buzzed with tension. Cameras waited outside while armed marshals lined the halls. Alara stepped inside, flanked by Malik and a new ally, Lydia Holt, holding her original depositions. The judge presiding was not Marlowe, but an emergency appointee, Judge Farrow, sharp-eyed, unimpressed. You'll argue for the admittance of leaked federal material? He asked. Elara replied, We argue for the survival of the judicial system. Voss sat across the room, flanked by government counsel. Her expression was calm, rehearsed. The moment had come. Elara rose, held up a printed case transcript with 2 dates, the original and the fabricated. One man was convicted. One never had a trial. Silence reigned. She concluded, This is not a defense, it's an exposure. And so the war entered open court. Voss took the stand with chilling precision. Every question was met with a China recall, or that falls under classified purview. But then Elara revealed her trump card, the decrypted voice log from the server. Play it, she instructed. Malik tapped his laptop. The courtroom filled with the distorted voice. Subject Ryerson authorized for outcome reversal. Gasps echoed. Judge Farrow leaned forward. Miss Voss, is this your operation? Her silence was the answer. Then Lydia rose with a sworn affidavit, signed by a retired Justicinate contractor. This confirms Voss's directive. The courtroom erupted. Voss's attorney called for dismissal. Farrow pounded the gavel. Order. Elara stood tall. This is what they feared, not the truth itself, but that it might be her. The courtroom adjourned, but chaos spilled into the streets. Protesters surrounded the courthouse chanting. Cameras live-streamed every moment. Elara exited to a roar of questions. Is Voss going to jail? Will the Doge intervene? She didn't stop. Behind her, Malik whispered, FBI just released a statement. They're opening an internal probe. Elara nodded, exhausted. But her gaze was drawn to a quiet figure on the sidewalk. The defendant, finally free, watching with stunned disbelief. Elara walked to him. You're free because you were never guilty. He said nothing, only tears streaming. Malik placed a hand on Elara's shoulder. You cracked the system. She replied, No, I showed everyone where it's broken. Around them the chant swelled. Let the truth speak. Later that night, in the glow of Malik's apartment, the team sat in silence. The news rolled on. Congressional hearings, indictments pending, legacy cases reopened. Elara stared out the window. We exposed the rot. But this machine, it has roots. Malik nodded. Then we dig deeper. Lydia raised her glass. To the whistleblowers, past and future. Elara smiled faintly. And to those who want, let silence win. The screen showed Marlowe stepping down from the bench, Voss under federal custody, and the reinstatement of Ryerson's name in court records. Outside, the city pulsed with life again, louder, brighter. Not healed, but awakened. And somewhere in the dark, someone else watched. The truth had broken through. But the war for it had only just begun. Weeks later, Elara stood at Ryerson's grave, now no longer marked by silence. A fresh headstone gleamed under the morning sun. Isaac Ryerson. Father. Patriot. Wall. Innocent. Elara laid a single white rose. Malik joined her quietly. The Doji dropped charges against the others, listed in the leaked files. She nodded. But no indictments for those who erased them. Her voice was low. They're letting the system heal itself. Malik sighed. That's how rot survives, by pretending it's reform. Elara turned from the grave, her face unreadable. Then we don't wait, we keep exposing it, one layer at a time. Behind them, the cemetery was quiet, but the war had moved beyond the courtroom. It now lived in every institution still untouched. Back at the office, Malik uncovered something buried in the final layers of the Echo Verdict server, a coded reference to a project titled Lucent Directive. This isn't part of the original purge, he said. This is older, deeper. Elara studied the metadata. It predated Ryerson's case by nearly a decade. They've been preparing this for years, she murmured. Sienna, looping in via secure call, confirmed the program was never logged in public records. It's as if it was built to never exist, she said. Malik leaned back. We just exposed the virus. This is the source code. Elara whispered. Then Sable was the firewall. Echo was the application. But Lucent is the blueprint. They weren't hunting shadows anymore. They were facing the architects. They met with Sienna in a secluded underground parking garage. Lucent was designed for preemptive legal restructuring, she explained. They could identify risk factors before someone even committed a crime. Malik blinked. Predictive conviction? Sienna nodded. Behavioral scoring tied to sealed databases, social history, financials, travel patterns. Elara's blood ran cold. They were building a pre-crime judiciary. Sienna handed over a flash drive. This is everything I could salvage. After this, I disappear. Elara took it. We'll protect it. But Sienna shook her head. Don't protect it. Release it. All of it. The torch had passed. The moment was no longer about strategy. It was about lighting the fire no one could ignore. The flash drive went live at midnight. Malik uploaded it to a decentralized network, mirrored, seeded, impossible to erase. Within hours, hashtags exploded, journalists dissected files, and public outrage swelled like a tidal wave. Lucent Exposed trended across every platform. At her desk, Elara watched as senators demanded answers, global agencies distanced themselves, and whistleblower forums surged with new leads. Her hands trembled. We just tore down their invisibility cloak. Malik nodded. But they'll strike back. Hard. Elara didn't blink. Let them. The world's watching now. On screen, a former federal contractor had come forward, confirming Lucent's trials had already impacted hundreds. Truth wasn't just bleeding through anymore. It was flooding. At sunrise, Elara stood on a rooftop overlooking the city. Below, helicopters buzzed, sirens howled, and screens on buildings replayed the leak footage. Her phone buzzed with anonymous tips, people stepping forward, afraid but no longer alone. Malik joined her, sipping coffee. We woke the world, he said. She nodded. Now we hold the line. He asked, what happens next? Elara exhaled slowly. They'll deny, destroy, distract, but we keep the lens on them. We don't let up. Her eyes never left the skyline. Because the moment we stop watching, they start rewriting. The sky brightened, golden against the storm they'd ignited. The truth had surfaced. But holding it in the light would be the real battle. A week had passed, but the world hadn't calmed. Congress launched emergency hearings, intelligence agencies pointed fingers, and global news cycles refused to move on. In a private interview studio, Elara sat across from a live camera, lights glaring. The journalist asked, "Do you feel responsible for the fallout?" Elara replied without hesitation, "No. I feel responsible for not doing it sooner." The interviewer leaned forward. "What do you want people to take away from this?" She paused, then said, "That truth doesn't vanish. It's buried. And it takes all of us to dig it up." The red recording light blinked silently, and across millions of screens, her words etched themselves into history. For the first time, silence wasn't their enemy. Apathy was. Meanwhile, Voss sat alone in a holding cell, stripped of her tailored power and political aura. The walls were sterile, the light flickering above her head. A guard walked past, offering no acknowledgement. On the small desk sat a copy of the leaked Lucent file, annotated in red. She flipped through it with slow, surgical precision. Not rage, not fear, just calculation. Behind her, security cameras blinked silently. Voss whispered, "They think they've won." Her reflection in the stainless steel mirror showed not defeat, but restraint. She wasn't finished. She was reloading. Across the city, the people chanted justice, but in this cell, silence sharpened. The machine had lost one part, But the architects never vanish. They simply regroup. Outside the courthouse, Lydia Holt stepped up to the podium. Flashbulbs exploded, microphones angled in. "I was part of the system," she said, voice unwavering. "But I stand here to say the people inside knew. We looked away. Some helped, others feared. But we all heard the hum of injustice." She held up a photo of her brother. "This isn't about politics. This is about silence. And what happens when it's weaponized?" Elara watched from the steps, jaw clenched. Behind her the crowd stood in dead silence, then erupted in applause. Lydia had become more than a witness, she was a catalyst. What once began as a defense had become a reckoning. Truth had found its echo, and it was deafening. In a classroom across the city, a young woman pulled up a news clip of Elara's interview on her tablet. Around her, law students debated civil justice and institutional reform. "She changed everything," one said. The professor interjected. "She reminded us, the law serves the people, not the other way around." Across cities and borders, ripples spread. From protests in Berlin to court reviews in D.C., Lucent's exposure triggered a global audit. The system had been cracked open. But the question remained. Who would keep it that way? Elara stood alone on a street corner watching a mural go up. Her Ryerson, Lydia, and others painted in brilliant, defiant strokes. It wasn't about glory. It was about memory and warning. Night had fallen. Elara sat alone in her office, lights dimmed, the city shimmering through the window behind her. On her desk was the original case file, the one that had started it all. Her fingers brushed the cover. Malik's voice echoed in her memory. "You cracked the system." But the silence now wasn't empty. It was earned. Her phone buzzed once, an anonymous message, another name. Another case. "Need your eyes." Elara didn't smile. She just stood, walked to the board, pulled a new pin from the drawer, and drove it through the center of a blank file. No fanfare. No final victory. Just the next layer. The next lie. The final line spoken not aloud, but burned into the silence. She was not done.